Hello and welcome everyone to today's conversation with the beautiful Yanaëlle Ntwa and me, Lisa Yara, about the beauty of spring and winter blossoming into spring and how this phase of opening up, for me, it sometimes is a challenging phase. And I know for other people it can be as well. Like you want to stay in hibernation and winter and at the same time the life force is pulling you outside and the trees and the flowers are blossoming, and it's like a really mixed bag, I think. And that's why we thought would be a lovely time to have a conversation about this. But before we dive into that, let's start with a brief introduction of Yanaëlle. She has been on this show before, and I will link to that episode where we talked about the beauty of death and winter. But maybe could you briefly introduce yourself to those who don't know you yet, and then end with a cycle check-in, meaning tuning into your body, the day of your cycle, and 1, 2, or 3 words for how you are here today.
Yeah, it's also been a while since I haven't presented myself, so I hope it will go well. So, like we said, my name is Yanaëlle Ntwa, and I am a brand poet. So I really help brand take the storytelling to the next level, a level of intimacy, beauty, and connection with their clients by writing poetry for their products, services, newsletter, branding, anything. It's possible there. So this is kind of what I do in the world, and that brings me joy, and that brings joy to the people that I work with, that I partner with. In regards to my menstrual cycle and kind of check in, today I feel pretty good, actually. I remember that when we had our conversation in winter, I felt low in energy. Today I feel inspired. I feel opened. I feel gracious also towards myself. Kind and tender and sweet. There is a thunder going on here where I live, but even though it feels heavy, I don't feel heavy within. I feel neutral, warm. Feel good.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's so, that's adjectives that are usually describing spring and spring energy. And it's, great that you are feeling these ways today for our conversation about this. Me, myself, I am somewhere on cycle day 38, 39, I think. I lost track because my cycle recently started to shift 180. So really there was an eclipse, the eclipse season, and these 2 weeks my body seems to have gone out of time, out of space, and where I used to, where I should have been bleeding according to previous cycles, I was then ovulating, and now I'm like, oh, interesting. So new beginnings. I've recently moved apartments. Everything is starting afresh, and my cycle seems to follow along. And today I feel really excited about this topic. There is a little bit of tiredness, but this energy of excitement and inspiration and, I want to go out and be out and enjoy the sunshine is definitely also present.
Yeah.
Cool. So the beauty of spring. And I know you, Yanaëlle, you have taken your time, a pause, a deep hibernation during the months of winter yourself to regroup and reassess where you want to lead your life or what's the next phase going to look like.
Yeah.
Would you like to share maybe a few of your insights or what has happened for you during this hibernation phase that you allowed yourself to be in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wasn't expecting it. So thank you. For me, it was important, and it has become really important to take a break during winter season, especially as an online business owner, because and I'm sure you're also familiar with that, it takes a lot of energy to actually be present on social media. We are present on multiple platforms. We are active. It requires a lot of creativity. It's a lot of life force, and I realized that each time at the end of the year, I was really tired. I was really drained, and I wanted to go back inward. And then I was like, why are you not giving yourself the permission to do it? Why are you pushing forward? You can take a break. You can actually take a break and just trust that you will be supported in that decision. And so since last year, no, 2 years ago, and this year again, I'm taking a break during winter season to just create, but in a way that is more intimate, that is more personal, that is for me. As online business owners, we create a lot for others. I create poetry for others. I create poetry for my clients. I create poetry for my own brand. So I use a lot of my talents and gifts for others. And in winter season, it is also my time to use my gifts for myself, to actually write what's on my heart for my own self, and not publish it, not put it out there, but simply just read it for me and maybe share it with a friend or so. But it is more for me, and I feel like it brings so much balance to this big season like spring and summer and fall, where we are out there and putting things out there and then harvesting, and it just brings this beautiful harmony and rhythmic nature also to life. Because as an example, now that we are in spring, I'm feeling renewed. I'm feeling it's like I went through my own darkness, my own shadow, my own wild nature, chaotic nature. It's the dark, it's the feminine mystery. I went there for my own self. And I believe, because we talked about it in the last video too, is that I believe that women, when we go through those seasons, we not only go through that season for ourselves, I believe we do it also for the woman in our lineage. We do it for the world. We do it for so many. It's the interconnectivity between it all that we are embodying in that season. And so, yeah, I shed the necessary layers that were no longer serving me. I sat down with myself. I reflected also. I embraced the beauty and mystery of death. I welcomed it because, like we beautifully shared it, it's an open door. It's a transition that leads to spring. Death is the promise of spring. It is the promise of life. And so I went through that for my own self, which then allowed growth, openness, new beginning, new possibility, room for something new. And to tie it also with grief, which is also one of our topic here, to me, it's important to allow ourselves the time and the space to go through that heavy, more quiet sometimes part of the grieving process. So then we can come into spring. And you kind of touch a little on that, is that spring is here, but sometimes we want to stay in winter. And I think that's maybe the same sometimes with grief, whether it is the grieving process of a person or a season of our life. I was thinking a lot about motherhood this morning, women transitioning in motherhood, or moving spaces, states or country, whatever. Sometimes we kind of stay stuck in the reminiscing process of when I was just in my womanhood and I had no other responsibility, or I wish I could go back to that relationship, or I wish I could go back to that house that I had in that country, in that city. I wish I could go back to those friends. I wish I could be with that beloved member that transitioned. But I feel like when we allow ourselves to go through the process of winter, then we allow ourselves to actually ask ourselves the great question of, did I learn from that person? Was I a good teacher, student with that relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Did we really alchemize what needed to be alchemized? Did I forgive what needed to be forgiven? Did I purify what needed to be purified? Did I learn the lesson that that person, that season, that job, that country, that city, those friendships, that school maybe was meant to teach me? Did I did the job to assess that? And then when we do that, we step into spring, because we step into actually becoming the light of the embodiment of those lessons. And I think that that is what I allow myself to experience when I take a break in winter. I allow myself
Amen.
to assess all those things.
Yeah, there was so much gold in there, and I think in today's society we have lost the art of wintering and really allowing this grief to happen. And then, as you say, at some point going into, okay, what did I learn from it, so we don't stay stuck in this moment.
Exactly.
And regain. And I think there is a natural point where that happens if we allow, but we are often so afraid to even go there, to go into this wintering and letting go and grieving, that we can't come to the point where it's like a natural turning. And I say that because I could feel it so much this spring in myself. Like I said, we moved apartments, and we like the day we moved, it was the beginning of spring, like on an astronomical level. And when I learned which day we would be moving, or when we decided, I was like, yes, it's so synchronistic, it's so beautiful that it goes with the spring, this new beginning of a new apartment, a new city, somewhere where we want to go. But I also had to go through this extensive period of, oh my God, I'm leaving everything behind here. Like my whole world was like, if you know me a little, I have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, which means that I try to keep everything as clean and dust free as possible, everything in my whole household. And it's annoying, and it's also hard, and it serves to suppress emotions. And I had to let all of this be shaken apart and broken up in this winter period, because I decided that I won't be taking my OCD, at least not completely, with me into the new apartment. And so for me, this wintering was a phase. It hurt. Like it emotionally, it even physically hurt me. And it was necessary to then allow the dust to settle and to grieve and to go through bouts of crying and all of it. And then when I allowed it, at some point, there was like a switch being switched on or off inside of me, like the other way around, where I could feel the opening that you've described.
Yeah.
Where I could touch into, okay, yeah, yet now it's hard. And also there's a promise of something else that I want more than what I'm experiencing right now. And there's this regrouping, this deep inner regrouping process.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we have forgotten how to transition, because of course it's not easy. That's why we go to therapists, that's why we go to coaches, that's why even I turn to poetry. That's why I love your poetry, because it speaks of this. It helps me feel less alone in this experience. And that's when we tap into the mystery and surrender to the, hey, I'm really not in control here. Please show me where I'm meant to go next.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, this is so potent what you shared with, this beautiful moving period for you. And also this decision, this intention to actually leave your OCD behind. I feel like to me that is also intentional wintering, intentional grieving, because grief can happen to us unexpectedly, but also we can make the conscious and intentional decision to go through the process of death because we want to step into the new, step into a new chapter of a new version of ourselves. And that, to me, that is also part of the beauty of spring, is when we partner with death and we partner also then with spring, with choosing to enter into um, a new version of ourselves, like I said. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I just thought, yes, we are partnering with death, and at the same time, we're partnering with life because they are interconnected.
Exactly. And that to me is the message of hope, mercy, love, and redemption, the good news. The spring, it is what it is, attached to death. And I think that this is also what allows us to go through our grieving process in a different way. Grief is actually a promise of life. It is a promise of spring for the one that has passed on, for the season of our life that has passed on, but also for ourselves. Especially when we go through that beautiful process of asking ourselves, what was I meant to learn from that person? What was I meant to learn from my OCD? What was I meant to learn from that house that I lived into for many years?
Exactly.
And now I'm moving into another house. What was I meant to learn from my past relationship, my ex-husband, or my grandmother that passed on? When we are able to actually ask ourselves those questions, we are partnering with death, and we are partnering, like you said, with life. We are allowing ourselves actually to carry the memory of that person, these people, the house, the season, by embodying the lessons that they were meant to teach us. We are honoring their life, their journey, what we said that we will learn from each other. And I feel like it brings a whole new perspective on grief, but also spring. Because now spring become this honoring melody and symphony of the lessons that the people, the seasons, wherever we were in the past was meant to teach us. That is spring. It's the resurrection song that we all are, actually.
You know, it's no coincidence that at this time in outer spring we celebrate Easter, which is basically the story of resurrection, not just of Jesus, but of nature herself, because nature has reawakened from the death.
Exactly. It's just this beautiful, and that's the beauty of life also. It's just, it carries within its womb, its interiority, truth, the principle of life. It's just so beautiful how nature, life in itself, when we take the time to sit and contemplate it, it teaches us its principle, its wisdom, its knowledge. And it goes back also to quietness also. Can we sometimes take the time to be quiet and listen, contemplate, gaze, so that we can learn? Because I was even thinking, when I was preparing this talk, I was thinking about all the people that are, like we said, they are stuck in this in between. They are struggling to actually believe that maybe there is, and surely there is, another relationship that will fulfill them, another house that will fulfill them, another job that will fulfill them. They are stuck in this place of, I will never meet somebody as kind as that person. I will never experience a team culture, maybe in the job that somebody was, that was as gracious, as kind, as patient, as nurturing as the last one. And those kind of thought pattern keeps us stuck from experience the abundance of life. Because that's how abundant life is. It is cyclical. So it will always brings back a spring some way or another. When we allow death to come into our lives, we actually allow spring also to come into our lives. And that is the beauty of spring.
Yeah. And I'm, of course, reminded of our personal cycle, whether that's the menstrual cycle, if we still menstruate, or whether that's the moon cycle as women and people who have bled or who don't maybe have a uterus anymore. But we go through all of these phases every month. So we have the opportunity every month to learn how to transition, especially between the winter phase of menstruation or dark moon and the spring phase of the follicular phase and the waxing moon. And each inner winter is a time to go inwards and look at, okay, who am I no longer? As you said, what layer do I have to shed?
Yeah.
And also, what am I here for? Who am I? Like on a deep, deep core level, who am I? And what do I want to create in this world? Or what do I want to do with my life? And then allowing us to just sit and listen, as you say, be quiet and listen for the answers that may come in images or words or knowing, or maybe nothing comes and we have to wait a little longer because winter teaches us patience. I know it's not easy. It's not easy for me either. But then when we have sat down with ourselves like that and understand at least a little more of what we want, like what direction we want our life to take in, then we can allow spring to help us with its with the energy coming back to actually create an idea of how we can make that happen and slowly start implementing that and refocusing on the vision we have for the next month or the next chapter in our life.
Exactly. I call it birthing the light or even the Christ within us. And it makes me think of actually Mother Mary and a way of looking at the mystery that she embodies in another way, and maybe in a way that we don't always look at, is the fact that she actually birthed, carried the light within her. So actually from winter, from the darkness, and the darkness, not the darkness as bad, but the darkness as actually everything that is, from all the possibilities, she was able to birth herself anew, to birth the light in herself and to give it birth in the world. And I believe that each woman, through her creation, through whatever we are doing, when we are allowing ourselves to go through that moon phase, that bleeding moment, and we are actually allowing ourselves to grieve what we no longer want to be, we are actually stepping into spring, carrying the new version of ourselves, stepping into the world with maybe new routines, new intention, new habits that actually sustain that rebirth of oneself. I believe Mother Mary, and this is me talking, so I'm not the holy truth, but I believe Mother Mary didn't just give birth to somebody else. She gave birth to a new version of herself. She gave birth to herself, to this, and we were talking about that at the beginning. She gave birth to a version of herself that is just full of light. That is, when we look at the archetypal and the season that woman goes through, maiden, mother, and crone, she stepped into the mothering phase of herself too. And I believe that with each creation that we give birth to, our art, poetry, it can be our business, it can be our children, it can be the way we clean our home, a garden, it can be our paintings, just so many, a PhD, whatever. We are actually giving birth to ourselves. And that is the beauty of spring, is this birthing season too, that just takes so many shapes and form. And what I really wanted to say also with the light is that it comes from actually all the story that we have been able to strip away from ourselves, the stories that didn't serve us anymore. And that is why I love to use that image of the light and even the Christ, is that because we are also the Christ, so is that version of ourselves that is whole, actually. So yeah, it's just beautiful. Spring, nature, it's just mesmerizing.
And the birthing season, I mean, you are saying it absolutely correctly. Look at what's happening outside. The trees are blooming, flowers are blossoming, lambs are being born. The bees are collecting their nectar and everything. So yeah, it's birthing this immense beauty and lusciousness, and like for all the senses, and it's like it's calling. I can feel it calling, certainly in myself. That's why today I decided, for those of you who are just listening, I have my hair open, and it has been like, I don't know, maybe even 4 or 5 years that I have not had my hair open, but always in some kind of bun, because of my OCD. And I have now decided that I want to have my hair open more often. And yeah, so I feel like this is a new beginning on many different levels.
It is.
Outside, inside, for you, for me. And I think people can feel it too. Today we are celebrating the Wheel of the Year Festival of Beltane. And like, people can feel it. They want to go outside. They want to have fun. They want to celebrate. They might not know it, but they want to celebrate nature and the life force returning, and even their sexual nature coming back to life after a winter. And yeah, it's amazing how we go through these inner shifts that are in line with the season, even though we might not even know about the seasons, like, and the internal seasons and what they embody or what they mean. And still we do it because we are part of nature.
Exactly. We are one with it. We are one with it. And that is very important to know deeply in our bones, because it just transformed the way that we move in the world, the way that we relate to nature, the way that we define power, the way that we do the world. But here I'm going to go into discussion of economy and all that stuff, so it will be for another time.
Okay. Yeah, but what was your biggest takeaway from your winter that you are now like allowing to unfold in spring?
To me, and we talked about it beautifully in our private conversation, but for me it was really, like I said, to birth the light within, not only in my body, but in the bodies of my day-to-day life. For me, I've been really devoting myself to beauty. Beauty is my highest value. And when I speak about beauty, to me, I see the presence of the divine in everything, and the communion with it at all times and everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has been something that is very, very, very important to me. I treasure it in every moment of my life, in every day of my life. And winter season was an opportunity to gain clarity around that, and also to not just keep it as an idea or a vision, but to actually birth it in my day-to-day. And that questioning of how can I actually build practices of beauty, build habits in my life that sustain this communion with the presence of the divine in everything. And so the transitioning phase, so in February, March, end of February, March was really a period for me where I gained clarity around, all right, what are the practices? Clearly, you need to start thinking about it. You need to start listing them. And so I picked an easy practice, something that wasn't going to require a lot of change in my schedule, something that was an easy win and is a success for me, so I won't get discouraged. And so this is kind of what has unfolded and what has blossomed in my spring season is first going through the different, narrative and paradigms that kept me from actually claiming my devotion to beauty. Then once that cleaning process was done, I had to get a clear vision of what a devoted life to beauty was like. And then once that was done, I was like, practices, I need to define practices. And now that we are in spring, it's been two months now, March and April, that I've been compassionately consistent with my practices, because it is my devotion to really anchor and ground in my everyday the presence and the communion with the divine in everything. This is what matters the most to me. It is what, if I think about what is a life worth living, what is a meaningful life to me, it goes back to a life devoted to beauty. So I'm really happy that winter gave me that, birthed that in my body, in the bodies of my everyday, my cooking, my sleeping, my relationships, my speaking, all those different bodies, that just represents, our day-to-day life, communities, work, art, hobbies, and all that stuff. So that is for me.
Wow. Yeah, for me, it was a hard and harsh winter, of course, also related to the OCD and all of that. But for me, it was a process of trusting myself and of trusting my body. And I had to really block out external people, like no podcasts, no newsletters, really sit down with the pen and a piece of paper and myself and get clear on, like, what does success mean to me in life? And for me, it's things like joy, having spaciousness and joy and devotion. So spiritual practices that connect me to the divine, if whatever you believe in. To me, it's right now the great mystery, to really learn how to surrender. I mean, it's a practice. It's not that I have learned it by any means, but really trusting the unfolding of things and trusting that I'm doing enough with what I'm doing, and that focusing on the moving and the packing and the unpacking and the releasing the OCD was enough for me at this moment. And suddenly clients showed up ready to work with me out of the blue, and I'm so honored that, like, it's again so synchronistic that life shows me, yes, this is what you're meant to do, while I'm focusing on, okay, what am I here to do? What do I feel called to do? What do I want to do? What do I want to focus on? And so it's a strengthening of the resolve and commitment to my cause and the work that I do, and also this deep trust that I'm enough and that I really have the answers. Like I tell that to people all the time. You've got the answers in yourself, and of course that's the thing I have to work at too, because half of the time I don't believe I have the answers in me too. I'm asking my husband for his opinion on what I should do in my business, which is ridiculous. But many of us are so trained to follow other people's advice and ideas that we have forgotten how to ask ourselves for that and trust it. Trust what comes up. And I think for me, that is the biggest lesson that I take out of this winter into spring, that it's okay to design a work week in a way that fits me. Of course, I'm a business owner and it's easier for me. But always finding these little choice points where I can make a choice if I want it this way or that way, and then do it in a way that feels joyful to me.
Yeah.
Because that's like, what is the reason for living? Like, if it isn't joyful, why are you doing that shit? This is not to say that everything has to always be love and light and wonderful. No, that's not what I'm saying. But this general direction of, why should I bother too much with things that aren't joyful and don't serve like my life? Of course, I have to get money and food on the table. And there might be things that I don't like as much, and I have to do them so I can like take care of my basic needs. But also, apart from that, like, where do I find the joy?
Yeah.
And the enjoyment of spring, and like just sitting outside on the terrace in the sunshine, and we now have a terrace in our apartment, and just enjoying this presence in the moment with the bees humming and the sun shining on my skin, and just being.
Yeah. It's so important. It's so important. We need it.
We do. Thank you, Yanaëlle. It was a really enlightening, inspirational, we went to all the places kind of conversation.
We did.
And I'm looking forward to our chat about summer, because we have already decided last time that we will do one for each season. And yeah, can't wait to see how what we found now in our lessons are going to unfold when we move into summer. And
yeah, it was really nice, this conversation. I deeply appreciated this moment and this opportunity. I think that it's always nice to actually pause and reflect on the time, on the season that we are going through. Otherwise, time just fly by, and we wake up, 50 years after, wondering, what have I done with my life and stuff. I feel like our conversations are actually a good practice of sitting down with ourselves, reflecting, course correcting sometimes, or sometimes just confirming things that we have been doing well, encouraging ourselves so that we can live intentionally. I think that's really what the season teaches us, to live intentionally, to savor, like you said, also to be present with what's going on in ourselves and around us, as we are all one and interconnected. So yeah, thank you so much for gifting me also with this beautiful opportunity to reflect with you and to think about the seasons.
Yeah. And it shows how, like, all seasons interconnect as well. The reflecting part that we do in spring, reflection is more something of autumn and winter, and we do it in spring, and we do it in every phase because it's all interconnected and there are several cycles going on at the same time.
Exactly.
And it's a beautiful symphony
Going
that's
on.
happening.
It's the great orchestra of life. It's just beautiful. And like you said, I think that it's just beautiful. So when we take the time to listen to it, to listen to what is the melody going on in my heart, how can I actually dance with it? Dance with it, no matter if it's a dark melody because you're feeling a little bit dark, or it's a upbeat melody because it's, you know, spring and summer, whatever. It's important to listen to the great orchestra within and around us. Sometimes, you know, when we cannot listen to ourselves, we can tune to nature. It will guide us back, right back to within.
Totally agree. Thanks everyone for watching and or listening. If you would like to know more about Yanaëlle and her work, or me and my work, you will find all the links below. And we hope to speak to you next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you in summer. Bye.